February 22nd. The year is 2022. That would be 2/22/22, if I have it right, Tina. Tina-Desiree Berg, freelance journalist, wonderful co-host from time to time. How you doing, Tina?
I'm good. 2222222. Who knew?
Indeed. Serious business to discuss today. Obviously, according to CNN, World War III is about to happen. So we'll get to that a little bit later. I don't want to say that this topic is more important than World War III, but I do believe what we're about to get into is an important topic. So I'm glad you could join me for it. I guess I have to put a few disclaimers, right, Tina? Because people think that any reporting, like facts about whether it be Movement for a People's Party or Green Party or any third party, if you report anything that might be critical or might have facts that are negative, that you are trying to help the Democratic Party or take down the third party. I don't really give a shit about that. You want to support the Democratic Party, support the Democratic Party. You want to support third parties, support third parties. You want to check out and don't support anything and just do direct action, have a ball. But I don't think, and I think you agree, Tina.
I agree. Sometimes facts are displeasing.
Yes. I don't think I'd be doing my job if I just ignored this story. So yesterday, we reported, some stuff that was already out there. Paula Jean Swearingen, who had ran as a West Virginia Senate candidate in 2018, and she became the Democratic nominee in 2020 in West Virginia. Unfortunately, she lost. She resigned from Movement for a People's Party. She didn't give any specifics why, but she resigned. Then I had obtained some internal Slack messages from MPP showing, let's just say, a little dissent on COVID and many other things. I said yesterday that Nick Brana, the chair of MPP, was under investigation. I had that confirmed yesterday. I didn't have enough to really get into what it was that he was under investigation for. So I spent most of yesterday and all the way till 10 o'clock last night talking to sources investigating that. And I learned that Nick Brana, who is the national chair of MPP, Movement for a People's Party, has been under investigation since December for alleged sexual harassment. I am basically just going to read from the story because this story is more than just the accusation of sexual harassment. There's also other allegations that, I don't know if they're harassment or more than harassment. But to be clear, I reached out to Nick Brana. He didn't respond. So he has had all day to respond. I'd love to, update the story with his response if he denies the allegations. As somebody who has been on the receiving end of this false accusations against me, I take it very seriously. Obviously, you want to be judicious and fair and give anyone being accused all the time in the world to respond. But I also meticulously went through this, and the facts speak for themselves. So let's get into those facts. Tina, if you'll just stick around for a couple minutes as I read this. So, exclusive. Movement for a People's Party national chair Nick Brana was under investigation for alleged sexual harassment. I should say also, Tina, that this story is a little bit more than just the accusations against him. There seems to be a clear thing here that board members were removed who were
silenced the dissent, so to speak.
Yes, that board members who were calling for certain punishment of Nick Brana were removed. So this is beyond just the accusation against him. There were board members abruptly removed over the weekend on Sunday and Monday, and several of those board members were calling for aggressive penalty, including him being removed as national chair and a board member. So this is sexual harassment accusations, but also a purging seemingly linked to this investigation. Again, I reached out to him. He didn't respond. I'd be happy for him to respond and deny or correct anything. So let's get into this. Multiple sources familiar with Movement for a People's Party, MPP, and by the way, this is on Status Coup's Substack. The link is in the description, so you can read along if you want. Please subscribe to our Substack too. You can become a Substack member for $5 a month. Multiple sources familiar with Movement for a People's Party, which over the years has attempted to build a third party that could run local and federal candidates, told Status Coup that Nick Brana, MPP's national chair, has been under internal investigation since December 2021 after a female subordinate that Brana had at one point had a romantic relationship with made accusations of sexual harassment against him. Just to be clear, it is my understanding, based on sources, that this female who worked under Nick Brana plans on coming forward herself. So I can't confirm that, but I was told this by multiple sources that this subordinate who made the accusation plans on coming forward against Nick Brana. I don't know when, but that's what I was told. And again, at one point, they had a romantic relationship while Nick was her boss. Status Coup has reviewed documents that confirm the investigation was launched in the middle of December 2021. A special investigation committee, because I use that term a lot, SIC, Special Investigation Committee, consisting of 3 MPP board members, was formed in December to investigate and conduct interviews with Brana, the accuser, and anyone else relevant to the investigation. On December 13th, 2021, the 3 board members who were appointed to serve on the SIC reached out to Brana, informing him of the allegations and trying to set up a time to conduct an interview with him. Quote, "I can confirm that I was one of 4 MPP board members serving on a special investigative committee investigating accusations of sexual harassment against MPP chair Nick Brana. Regina Clark, one of 5 MPP board members who were abruptly removed from the board on Sunday, February 20th, so 2 days ago, and Monday, February 21st, told Status Coup." So let me be clear, Tina.
Yeah.
There's 10 board members total. Nick Brana is one of them, and his father, Rodrigo Brana. So there's 10 board members. Nick and his father are 2 of the 10. On Sunday and Monday, half the board was removed.
Wow.
Half the board was removed. I'm going to go further into the story explaining this, but again, half the board was removed, and at least 2 of those at least 2 of those board members were recommending, after an investigation, that he be removed as national chair and be removed from the board. So that doesn't look good. I'll say that. Okay. Quote, we were removed from the board because we were concerned about Nick remaining in his position, Clark said. This is Regina Clark, one of the people who were removed. As the investigation went on, it was clear there was sexual harassment going on. For other alleged acts, there was a debate on whether it was harassment or extended further. So why that's important is Regina was one of 4 board members who were put on this special committee to investigate. So Regina, she is one that is saying, based on the investigation, there was evidence that, or at least they found the accusations of sexual harassment credible. So that's coming from Regina Clark, who was a board member. She was removed over the weekend along with 4 others, and she was one of the 4 investigating. Nick Brana did not respond to Status Coup's request for comment or a number of questions about the allegations against him. Clark told Status Coup that the Special Investigative Committee originally consisted of 3 MPP board members, but weeks later, concerns mounted that one of the SIC's members was leaking information to Brana. As a result, a 4th member was added to the SIC. Clark detailed a stark evolution of findings and recommendations by the SIC after the group found the accuser's accusations against Brana credible. Originally, Clark said the Special Investigation Committee members planned on making several recommendations: a 6-month probationary period where Brana would have to be free of any type of sexual harassment accusations, take training classes for sexual harassment, participate in workplace supervisory training, and also that he not serve as a one-on-one supervisor to the accuser or anyone else during that 6-month probation period. But as the investigation continued and Brana allegedly retaliated against other MPP staffers, again, allegedly, I've reached out to Nick. He did not respond to questions. as Brana allegedly retaliated against other MPP staffers, 2 out of the 4 members of the SIC escalated their recommendations to calling for Brana to be removed as MPP national chair and board member. So that's kind of important, Tina, because it's kind of like the cover up worse than the crime. Like,
it can be.
Yeah. So originally, this committee was calling for 6-month probation, that he'd take training classes, sexual harassment, workplace training, that the nature of the management, that he can't one-on-one supervise change. But not just Regina, who was on the record, but I spoke with other sources who did share that there was concern that Brana was doing things to retaliate after the investigation was launched. Based on that, they at least I know 2 of the special investigation committee members, they went from, all right, give him a probation and training, to he needs to be removed. So, that's significant.
That is significant.
Through multiple sources, including Clark, Status Coup learned of an abrupt 2 to 3 day period between Saturday, February 19th and Monday, February 21st. So we're talking like 3 days ago, where 5 board members were abruptly removed from MPP's board after they had called for an emergency meeting to go over the findings of the investigation into Brana. Again, that investigation started in December, so it's been going on for about 2 months.
For a while, yeah.
Before the 5 board members' removal, MPP's board had consisted of 10 people, including Nick Brana and his father, Rodrigo Brana, who is co-coordinator of MPP's finance committee. And I found out later, I'll update the story, that he is listed as MPP's treasurer too. So he's not only co-coordinator of their finance committee, he's listed in legal filings as their treasurer. Multiple sources told Status Coup that on Saturday, February 19th, Clark and 4 other board members, Thomas Royko, Todd Jellin, David Fischel, and David Schmelzer, sent a petition to other board members of the partial MPP board. The partial board consisted of 8 out of the 10 board members, minus Nick Brana and Rodrigo Brana. So I was told essentially the full board is 10, but anything about this investigation, they were meeting with 8. Obviously, you wouldn't have Nick and his father in meetings pertaining to an investigation into Nick. So Saturday, 5 of the board members reach out to the other 3 board members, including the MPP's general counsel, asking for an emergency meeting the next day to discuss the findings of the investigation into Brana and to make recommendations. The petition sent to the rest of the partial board requested an emergency meeting of the partial board to take place the next day on Sunday, February 20th. So now this is 2 days ago, to discuss the findings of a 2-month investigation into accusations of alleged sexual harassment by Brana against the female subordinate who at one point he was romantically involved with. So I want to be clear, at one point they were romantically involved, no longer.
Doesn't mean he can't be guilty of sexual harassment. Let's be clear though.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not, I'm not saying anything.
No, you're not. I'm saying that because there are people in the chat bringing that up as if it's some sort of it's a deflect from that. But there are situations in which you can be involved with somebody, break up, and rape can occur, sexual harassment can occur, all kinds of things can occur. So it doesn't necessarily create an environment where that's not going to happen. Right.
And by the way, I am not going into detail again about the specific allegations. Because I was told by multiple sources that the woman, I don't know when, plans on going forward. And I felt I don't want to, I guess, leapfrog the woman.
No, let her tell her story. Yeah.
Right. So I can confirm that he was being investigated because I have the documents. I have documents that show he was being investigated for this. I have documents that show specific board members reached out to him, informing him of the allegations. And trying to set up a meeting with him on this. I also have spoken with multiple sources. So I know for a fact he was under investigation for sexual harassment. But I am not going into details of the allegations because I don't think I should leapfrog a woman if a woman plans on publicly going forward. All right. I'm going to try to speed read because we have a really important guest coming on, which is going to show a trend. It's going to show a bit of a trend at MPP. And by the way, smash the like button. Smash that like button. Share this live stream. Let's get this out to more people. And this is about more than just Nick Brana, by the way. We're going to get to that later. All right. Quote, for at least 1 week leading up to our removal, speaking, this is a board member talking about the 5 board members who were removed, for at least 1 week leading up to our removal, we've been trying to meet with other board members to settle the findings of this investigation. But those board members either didn't confirm that they couldn't make proposed meeting times or didn't propose alternative times. Clark told Status Coup. Another MPP source confirmed this. There, quote, there was a stalling going on by pro-Brana board members. We kept reaching out to meet since the Super Bowl on February 13th. So I was told this not just about a week-long delay or stalling to have a meeting to discuss the investigation's findings. I was also told that Brana was delaying for a few days to even have an interview with the investigation, with the members of the investigations committee. To be fair, he hasn't gotten back to me, so I would love to hear back from him, and he could deny or confirm anything. I reached out to him early this morning. I reached out to him. So on Sunday, February 20th, the 5 board members who had called for the emergency meeting the day before showed up to the Zoom meeting. But the 3 other members of the partial board, as well as MPP's general counsel, did not join the meeting. Quote, we contacted the lawyer, but he didn't provide a firm answer, Clark said. Within an hour, we received an email from the general counsel informing 4 of us that we were no longer board members after the rest of the board voted to remove us. The reason provided for 3 of us being removed was missing more than 4 board meetings in 12 months. The 4th, David Schmelzer, was listed as having resigned himself. A day later, on Monday, February 21st, so yesterday, David Fischel, who was part of the 5 board members who called for the emergency Sunday meeting, was removed from the board. So that's kind of interesting timing that you just suddenly go through your attendance records and, oh, you guys have missed more than 4 meetings. So we're just going to remove you from the board as you're calling for an emergency meeting to discuss the investigation into the national chair. That's just very interesting timing, Tina. Let's just call it what it is. It sounds like a pretext.
It absolutely does. That's too coincidental.
Right. And it gets better. Clark added that the crazy thing was that one of the board members who voted to remove her and 3 others, Phil Atato, had previously resigned from the board before the investigation into Brana began in December 2021. Status Coup asked Brana why Atato was allowed to vote if he was no longer a board member. I was told this by multiple people that this gentleman, Phil, had resigned already. So I don't know how he's able to vote other board members out if he had resigned from the board.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. Clark and another source also noted that several of the board members who voted to remove the 4 other board members for missed board meetings had also missed more than 4 board meetings in a year. So, it looks to me to be a clear pretext. Hey, some of these board members are trying to set up an emergency meeting to finally discuss the findings of an investigation into alleged sexual harassment, and all of a sudden they're all removed. Go figure. Soon after the email from MPP's general counsel came informing the 4 board members of their removal, they lost access to MPP's Slack channel, Google Drive, and their MPP email address. Clark and 2 other MPP sources detailed that as the investigation into Brana went on, Brana did several things that that MPP board members viewed as retaliation meant to undermine the female accuser. Some of Brana's alleged retaliation revolved around him trying to create oversight structures so that he would be directly overseeing certain MPP staffers' day-to-day functions and performance, which would have weakened the accuser's role at MPP. 1,000%. Clark said about Brana allegedly trying to obstruct the investigation. Quote, there was growing concern about Brana's actions that felt like ways to obstruct the investigation. Brana did not respond to questions about alleged retaliations or other questions. Without a response from him, we could cite the most recent public message from MPP's Florida chapter that provides some insight. A tweet claiming victory declared and insinuating that the board members who had been removed over the weekend and Monday had been discovered to be, quote, liberal contractors, whatever that means.
What is that?
And by the way, to be fair, this isn't MPP's national Twitter. This is the Florida chapter. But this, Tina, kind of is a pattern, I was told by several sources, that anyone who dissents or asks too many, well, let me just get to the quote here. Quote, "The infiltration tactic is classic MPP Renee Johnston, a former New York-based MPP member who was removed in 2021, told Status Coup." I interviewed her yesterday on the live stream. Quote, "When they want to be rid of people who ask too many questions or push for too much change, they suddenly become bad actors and Democratic Party infiltrators and find themselves removed. The reality is most of the Purge people still very much believe in the need for a third party to contest the two-party duopoly. Status Coup will update the story if and when Nick Brana responds." So that's the story. It's in our description. Please read it. Please share it. Before we get to the guest, Tina, with all the caveats, with all the caveats, I'm aware of some of the specifics of the allegation, but I'm not going to get into it, not because I'm trying to hide anything, but out of respect to the accuser. Nick does have a right to defend himself. So I'm not getting into validity. All I know as a journalist, I can confirm he's been under investigation for 2 months for alleged sexual harassment. It was also described to me that there were some behaviors that there was a debate whether it was harassment or more. So to be clear, there was an investigation going on. I'm not trying to do a hit job on Nick Brana, but there seems to be clear evidence that, well, there is clear evidence there was an investigation into sexual harassment. And there also seems to be evidence that all of a sudden half the board was purged. Yeah. And some of that board...
Superficially, that in and of itself is troubling. Here you have an organization that apparently can't handle any sort of dissent within the ranks. That's troubling, especially in a political pack.
Well, I think it goes a little further than dissent. So I could at least say that, okay, so the special committee that was investigating this originally comprised of three board members. A fourth was added because there was concern that one of them was leaking information to Brana. Okay. So a fourth was added. By the end of it, it was kind of a split decision. Two of the board members who were part of this investigative committee, and when I say investigative committee, they interviewed the accuser, they interviewed Nick. I believe they interviewed some other people too. Two of them
did the right thing. I mean, at least, give everybody a fair say, look at the documents. That's the right thing to do.
So originally, the recommendations were agreed that there would be a 6-month probation period. He'd have to do sexual harassment training, workplace management training, and he couldn't have a one-on-one relationship. But when there was an alleged retaliation by Brana, two of the members, including Regina's the board member who went on the record with me, her and another board member, their recommendations changed to he needs to be removed based on this retaliation. The other two members of the investigation committee, they wanted to stick with the probationary period and the training. It was described to me that they were, quote, pro Brana board members.
But they still wanted him to go through the training and agree to the probation period?
Yes.
So,
yes.
I mean, that says something to me, is that they were able to form this consensus that is what needed to be done. That says something to me, first of all. The second part of that is I do think the retaliation against the other two board members would be grounds for having him removed, because that now we've gone to another level.
Well, actually, the retaliation, and I don't want to say so much because I don't know everything, but the retaliation wasn't so much against the board members. It was described to me by two sources that essentially Nick was trying to suddenly have oversight of certain staffers, that if he was overseeing them, it would almost like supersede the accuser who was also overseeing them. So, but bottom line, a board, whether it's for a media company, a nonprofit, just getting rid of 5 board members in 2 days, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen because they miss too many meetings.
No,
right?
it does not.
So there's some explaining that needs to happen here. And again, as far as the allegations, I will say, I cannot. I would like to hear from Nick Brana. He has absolutely every right to deny or apologize for something. But I will say the investigation committee did find the accusations credible. That I could tell you. So moving the plot along, and we'll get back to, more of this later, but moving the plot along, I'm a journalist. I got sources. So a couple people have been sending me, messages from MPP's internal Slack. Bernie's campaign had a Slack channel. MPP has a Slack channel. Okay. So it was described to me that they routinely just remove people who get a little too critical, right? Mm-hmm. So Colin, if we could show this, I'm talking like maybe a few minutes after my story post on Substack this morning, there was a post from Kate I hope I'm pronouncing her last name right. Manaccio. She was the New Jersey state coordinator. So not like the janitor, New Jersey state coordinator for MPP. She posts the story from Status Coup. Under it, you see @channel. You all need to read that. Okay. Then she does a follow-up. WTF already. All you people who think Nick is a god really need to get your heads out of your asses. Very soon after that, look who's deactivated.
She is.
She's deactivated from the Slack. And soon after that, there's a message from somebody else. Matt, was Kate removed for raising an inconvenient truth? So I don't say this to, I'm not trying to have fun here, but this kind of confirms a pattern here, because Nick has always said, oh no, the dissenters are infiltrators, or like Democratic Party infiltrators, or whatever, just bad faith actors.
Right.
But right here, you have a credible news report. It's posted in the Slack, and all of a sudden, this person who posted it is removed. Well, look who we have here. Kate.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Kate.
I'm kind of proud of that deactivated profile thing. I just want to say I'm kind of proud of that.
So, Kate, thank you for joining me. I'm glad I can get in touch with you. To be clear, I'm not trying to pile on here, but I think the fact that you had posted, I don't know, just a critical comment, like, is this a dictatorship or a democracy here? And were deactivated soon after. Does that surprise you?
No, I actually shared with my friends that I was about to post that. And I said, who wants to take bets on how soon I'm removed? Because I knew it was going to happen. So I've walked the line for months of pointing out things, but not being too aggressive so that I wouldn't get booted. But I knew it would happen today. And so when I posted that in the main channel, but then I also posted it in 5 others because I knew I was leaving and I wanted as many people to see it as possible. And also when there's also a state Slack for MPP for the states to work in, I post it in there too. And,
Now, I think it's important, because putting aside the accusations for a second, because you don't have any information on that, and I'm not asking you about that. But if a third party or any new political organization is going to work, you can't have this top-down structure that essentially is coming from one person and whomever his allies are to basically purge dissent. He chose not to respond to me. That's his right if he doesn't want to respond and answer my questions. But I would assume if he's the national chair of MPP, that other people inside MPP might have some questions about this. So the fact that you were just deactivated, I don't know if he did or others did. Is that something that happens a lot in terms of removing people from their channels if they get a little too critical?
Absolutely, all the time. And that's why I knew that I would be deactivated. And over this weekend, it wasn't just the board members that were moved. There were other people who were who were from like Washington State. They removed so many outspoken people from Washington State over the summer, and there were a few left who never post or anything, and they were removed this weekend. They hadn't even posted anything in weeks, possibly months. There were some Florida people who were left over. That's another state that had huge problems with MPP. they weren't saying anything particular this weekend. They were also removed along with the, that's what they do. Nick never asks for a meeting. Let's bring everybody together. Let's try and talk. It's just, boom, you're gone. And you get a vague message from another regional coordinator, Michelle, who's also a board member and still a board member. She's actually listed on their filing documents as a board member, that we'll be telling you more, so-and-so, Regina, Todd, and Thomas, the CC members, were removed, and we'll release further information shortly, but that never happens. You never hear more, and you're certainly not going to hear the truth. But, all of us who have been aware of this kind of behavior by the national leaders, the board members, have been watching this stuff happen for a long, long time.
And also something that troubles me, and I'm not a fan of the Democratic Party, and this story is not to tell you, hey, give up on MPP and go to the Democratic Party. You do what you want. I'm not. Hey, if MPP continues, God bless. This isn't about trying to end MPP. What troubles me about this is a common criticism of the Democratic Party. Yeah. I mean, the backroom dealings. We've had audio of like Steny Hoyer and these old gas bags demanding that progressive challengers drop out. Right. Trying to quash. Trying to tell progressive certain consultants or vendors, if you work with progressive candidates, we're not working with you, period. And basically trying to squash any dissent. So it sounds to me, at least from Brana and some of the top, that's what's been going on here.
And it has been. But what brought all of us to this, all these activists and organizers who were so tired of the Republicans, especially the Democrats, because the Republicans have always been out there, right? But the Democrats, just finding this out over the last 4, 5, 6 years. What brought us to MPP was we were promised a horizontal structure where everybody had a voice and everybody would be heard and everybody would have input. And many, many people volunteered thousands of hours of time over the past 2 years that I've been, almost 2 years that I've been there, doing the work, and it's nowhere. That work is nowhere, and it was never brought forth. It was never distributed to the states. Like, they did research on every state, what you would need to get ballot access in your state, and that information is under lock and key. It's never been shared with the state. But what brought us here is the by and for the people. You will have a voice. Everybody has a say. We hear you, kind of thing. And trying to stick it out because, almost as like a last hope for any kind of political party that would do something for the people, and the people would have a voice. And we just haven't seen that ever, really.
And Tina, feel free to jump in if you have any questions.
Well, yeah, no, it's interesting to me because I was thinking the same thing that you said about the Democratic Party. Here, this is supposed to be an alternative. We're better. We're going to be more democratic, not like the Democratic Party, but that doesn't seem to be the case, which is kind of frustrating, I would imagine.
Well, to be clear, it doesn't seem to be the case coming from the top nationally. But my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kate, state parties, Washington State, Texas, Virginia, this and that, they have been pushing forward, but in many cases, and not like anti-democratically, but like, as we've been talking about democratically, but they have not been getting a lot of help from Brana or National. Okay. And also in some cases, I have been told Brana has obstructed state parties.
Absolutely. Well, the first state to actually file as a People's Party in their state is Washington. And National MPP has refused to acknowledge them because they've always been outspoken and bringing up issues with how things are being run there. And so they've been a registered, recognized party in Washington for over a year. Their state chair is state elected. Like they use sociocracy mostly to run their meetings. Excuse me, I'm sorry, and their business and how they conduct everything. And it's like, I want to move to Washington, I swear, And in Texas, where they went through the bylaws, they elected their state central committee. All of a sudden, National comes running into their meetings, tells them that the National attorney for MPP who was helping the states, giving them draft bylaws for each state with specific things that each state requires, because it's not the same across the board. National came in and told them that the attorney gave them the wrong advice and you have to unfile. And like they recorded their meetings. Everybody in those meetings agreed to all this stuff and voted on it. And so they unfiled at that point. The state chair who was elected in that state is Athena, this magnificent organizer and such a dedicated, hardworking, and who was doing this for National. They unfiled and they wrote their own bylaws and they refiled, and they're not associated with National at all. And they are the People's Party of Texas. And then in Florida, where they were going to do, I'm sorry, I can't set that off. I hope it's not.
That's okay.
In Florida, where they had hubs throughout the state, and then had a couple people, going to state meetings or whatever. They made it where you had to be going to X amount of state meetings to be able to vote for this or that or whatever. And they actually told the other hub leaders that they weren't allowed to vote, and they kicked them out of meetings, told them to shut up on a live recorded meeting, and kicked them out of the state organizing, but they were still in National. And so these three people were left in National, but not allowed in their state party meetings or anything. But the remainders of those people were just removed this weekend as well.
So what's amazing to me about this, and to be clear, in fairness, I want to be fair. This is a third party effort. So there's definitely going to be at times disorganization, at times disagreements. You can't expect it to run like a well-oiled machine. They don't have the funding of like the DNC. However,
a well-oiled machine.
However, what you're describing, Kate, sounds a whole lot like what I've heard from local state Democratic parties.
Exactly.
The Iowa State Democratic Party and other state Democratic Party members who have told me that their state committees were making progress, reforms, things like that. And the DNC under Tom Perez and others came in heavy-handed and squashed what they were trying to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is they have, so like when you're going, like as a state organizer, we've been working on our bylaws and as well, and other states are doing it. And I think it's Missouri, you mentioned, they reached out to National and said, okay, we're done with our bylaws. We want to know how to file and to set up, because you have to file to then be able to start fundraising. They were totally cut off. Their emails were never answered. And all of a sudden, National finds a registered agent in their state to register the name. Yeah.
That just doesn't make any sense. Kate, let me ask you this. What is the motivation behind that? Like, we can look at the DNC and Tom Perez and know, like, well, he's cutting down on the state committees and the California State Party and this party and that party. He's doing that because of all the corporate lobbyists in the DNC, the donors. Like, there's an obvious paper trail. I don't see any evidence of that being the case with National MPP. So what do you think the motivation is for this? It just seems crazy.
We have been banging our heads against the wall for a year, trying to figure out, like, we don't think he wants to start a real party, but what is he doing? Like, so what is he doing?
What's the goal?
I understand their filings is their donations have dropped. They're spending more. I think this past quarter they spent more than they took in. And, as Jordan shared on yesterday's show, the $20,000 for a logo, that we have very talented people who have joined this because of the promise of what National made, who are web designers and graphic designers and organizers and activists who were begging for something to do, and their skills and their talents were never tapped. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Kate,
yes.
And Kate, let me share a description I have received, not from one person, not from two people. I'm talking like 7 or 8 people at this point, and fairly high level. And again, I don't really know Nick Brana. This is not an attack on him, but I got to report it, that he is a control freak, that he is a micromanager, that he doesn't want to delegate any responsibility, and he wants, if decisions are going to be made, he will fight those decisions if they are not in his image, so to speak. I know you didn't have a lot of interaction with him, but does that description that essentially he wants to lead a party, but essentially wants it to be his way or no way, what does that sound like to you?
I'll tell you, I don't have, excuse me again, I'm sorry. I don't have that kind of direct contact with Nick. I have met Nick. I've been at actions with Nick. I've been on calls. But I have spoken to people who were on the coordinator circle, the CC, the board, who left of their own accord months and months ago, who have said that. But that would be secondhand knowledge if I repeated it. But I've heard that, and like meetings going into hours into the night until he got the response he wanted from the people who were stuck there.
That's a great segue. I didn't report it in this story, but I was told by two people that board meetings generally start late, like 8 o'clock, 8:30. And Brana tends to, if there's a contentious debate and certain board members are just asking for like a vote, he pushes very hard for extensive debate. Not like 10, 15 minutes of debate. We're talking hours of debate, to the point that board meetings have gone from like 8:30 at night to 2, 3 in the morning. And board members drop off because like they have a job the next day.
Yeah.
And then votes pass with only, 2 or 3 people remaining, which is usually Nick.
And they don't have quorum. How are they doing that without having quorum?
This was described to me that Nick often pushes board meetings very, very late into the night to have very, very like hours long debates. So, Kate, let me ask you, because I don't mean this disrespectfully, but you've been around for a while. You're an old time activist. So does this seem like, it doesn't sound serious to me. Like, does it sound like a serious organization that literally after this story goes out, like you were one of the first people to link to it in the Slack channel and comment, and you shared a critical comment and they deactivate you? To me, that doesn't sound like a serious political organization. It sounds like a little mini, I don't know, dictatorship or something.
My personal opinion is I don't think they're a serious political organization. Again, like I said, there's many of us, people who have left before, people who have been pushed out, people who are still in, and including myself, who have been meeting in another outside of National to do what National promised. And many times we have these talks. What is he doing? We have no clue what he's doing. I mean, in the 6 months that we've been meeting, and we call ourselves now the United People's Assembly. And there's at least 10 different states meeting in there, plus other organizations. And that's what we want to do. We want to build that coalition of progressives, and we have Green Party members. We have progressive party builders. We have, all kinds of different groups coming together to do what MPP promised. And because we really believe in this, and we're not going to give up, because if we don't do this, I don't know where we are in 10 years. I've been worried about the planet for forever. So we want to do the work that MPP promised to do. And in 6 months, we have mandates. We have code of conducts. We have an assembly where everybody can send a delegate. Everybody from all these different bodies and groups can send a delegate, and everybody can attend every meeting. And all the documents are open source, and anybody can look at them, like what we were promised. And we're doing it the right way, And I don't intend to quit. I intend to try and get a hold of, there were 3,000 people on that mailing list. I was, deactivated from today, but hopefully they've written down the Gmail email address that I included in all our messages, and contact me and find their way to now where we will just do it in the UPA, where we are treated fairly and everybody does have a voice. And what Nick is going to do, I have no clue, especially after this. This is too many times that he has done this purge of people who who have real questions. It's not willy-nilly stuff. It's real questions about how do we do this? When are we going to, like, the UPA even started because we were begging for help.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm sorry. I just want the audience to understand. What is UPA?
Oh, I'm sorry. The United People's Assembly. So we call it the UPA. So it's the United People Assembly, right? We're assembling. So that group even started because we were begging for help in MPP with the bylaws and not getting anywhere. So the state that was disenfranchised by National, they didn't unaffiliate. National got rid of them first. They said, we did this. We can help you with that. Anybody who needs help with that, we're going to do like a mock of bylaws, and it'll be able to help you do it in your state. Or when we had to go to the NOC, the National Organizing Committee for MPP, to work on their charter and bylaws, and we would know the process, because I've never done that before. I don't know how many people ever have. So they were willing to help us to do what we were doing in MPP, even though National didn't recognize them. Like, and still National wants to say they're terrible infiltrators. They're doing, which is a good word they use for anybody who asks any question. You're just called an infiltrator.
Well, beyond the bylaws, I was told by multiple people, because, by the way, just so you know, and Tina knows, after I did the live stream yesterday, I probably had like 10 to 15 people reach out to me. Sure. Former MPP people who've been purged or whatever. Sure. I haven't been able to talk to most of them because there's only 24 hours in a day. But it seems like just doing this, there's a whole lot of people that are coming out of the woodwork with, it seems, legitimate grievances. But I was told by several people I spoke with yesterday that it's not just about the bylaws. When people in Slack or elsewhere ask questions about expenses and money being spent, when people ask questions about ballot access and what are we doing, when people ask questions about public messaging that was going out that we're going to run candidates in 2022 and 2024, when internally people were like, how are we going to do that? This is, I was told that those kind of questions about money and those other things, that led to people being purged.
Absolutely. We had a wonderful volunteer here in New Jersey. His name is Jim Keaty. He's actually held office as a Democrat, as a progressive Democrat. He's actually, you might have heard of him. He was told by Chris Christie to shut up and sit down.
Yeah, I know Jim.
Years ago. Yeah. So he was working with us. He was very excited for this, and he was actually working on the National Candidates Committee. And when they had started that, they were saying back in 2020 that by 2022 they would run 12 to 20 local candidates in key states and districts that would generate a lot of support for either the state or local, the local party, or and they would have the whole country behind them, and that's where they would be spending money. Well, that never happened, and then here it is. They don't have their bylaws yet, so they can't even file to be a real party. They're not a party. They're a movement, or whatever they want to call themselves. They're not a party. And they have no bylaws in place, so they can't. And so now all they're talking about is a presidential run. And how do you start at the top? How do you start at a presidential run to introduce your party to the world as a presidential candidate?
I'm sorry, Kate, but this is just too comical.
I know.
No. As you're talking, I got a Twitter DM. I'm not going to say from who, because I haven't spoken with the person. I don't know if they want to be on the record. But I got a Twitter DM from somebody saying, "Hey, Jordan, I won't say her position, and was referred to you and saw that you were looking for current and former members to talk to. I was waiting for the current news to drop before reaching out. I was removed on Sunday with the board members." So, I mean, he could say till he's blue in the face, all these people are just like Democratic Party ops, and they're all infiltrators. But that's just
not true. He's imploding.
Not only that. I'm sorry, Tina. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying he's imploding this all on his own. We don't even need
and there are very dedicated people who have said, "That's it, I'm out." They didn't wait to be purged. They just said, I can't bring any more clarity.
This is unfortunate.
I just have to leave because it's a the joke, the dumpster fire. All the time.
Can I ask you, Kate? Sure. I'm not asking about the allegations because obviously you don't know about that and you're not involved. but just common sense. Okay. All right. There are on a Saturday, 5 board members send a petition to have an emergency meeting the next day. 5 of those board members call for an emergency meeting the next day simply to discuss the findings of a 2-month investigation into alleged sexual harassment. Not all those board members, by the way, were calling for him to be removed. As far as I know, 2 of those board members were calling for him to be removed. But all 5 of them were calling for a meeting the next day simply to have a board meeting to discuss the findings of the investigation and come up, talk about recommendations. Does it smell kosher to you? I'm talking Jewish here. Does it smell
other Jewish people before? It's okay.
Right. Does it smell kosher to you that all of a sudden the next day 4 out of those 5 are removed, citing you missed too many board meetings over a year, or one of them, they said that he had already resigned, and then the next day the 5th is removed? Does that sound plausible to you that all of a sudden they just went through their roster and like, oh, we have to remove these board members for these reasons?
Also, importantly, the other ones had also missed that many amount of meetings, as you mentioned earlier, and were not removed.
Yes, so board members who voted them out also had missed several board meetings. I'm just asking you because you're part of MPP. Does that sound plausible to you?
Oh, it sounds absolutely plausible that Nick would do that, but it's absolutely ridiculous. Like what other corporation or company? It's because they're a corporation and their board, their 3 listed board members can do what they want. They don't have to do anything else. It's Michelle, Rod, and Nick are the board members who have say over everything.
And I want to get into that. To be clear, I did not reach out to Rod Brana, who is Nick's father. So I'm not saying anything about Rod Brana. Mm-hmm. I didn't reach out to him, but what I do know is he's the co-chair of the finance committee and he's listed as the treasurer. That seems like an odd dynamic to me, that his father is on the board with him. And these meetings go very late into the night and a lot of board members have to go to work the next morning, so they drop off. It was described to me that the way the rules are written is even if it's 2 or 3 members left, they can still vote, and it's just the majority. So if it's like 2 to 1 vote, it still counts. Could you describe that dynamic? Not that you have information about it, but that dynamic about like his father on the board and Michelle is apparently an ally of Nick's.
Well, Michelle's been there from the beginning and signed the original incorporation documents, but I have no clue if they even have any kind of operating documents that they all agree to or not. I know that rules that apply to so-called infiltrators, their community agreements, and you violated them and you're out, don't apply to people who are absolutely, diehard MPP Nick Brana fans. They are allowed to attack and name call and harass volunteers in the Slack. But if somebody who was asking a real question did the same, they would be, when they removed Mark Mixon, the state elected chair of the Washington People's Party, when they removed him from Slack, they produced like an umpteen-page document of copied Slack posts that Mark had made or whatever. Like this is what they spend their time doing, like copying and saving this stuff. like
I don't understand how they're getting around the board rules though. They're a 501c4, right, Kate?
I believe so. Yeah, they're like a political party support.
We need a parliamentarian here right now. I just don't understand how they're
they
making
removed him. They had one, and they removed him this weekend.
So, Kate, before I let you go, Kate, before I let you go, I want to get to the big picture because whatever. It seems like there's a bit of a cult of personality here, and Nick has his defenders who seem to think he could do no wrong. I don't really give a shit about Nick Brana. I don't really care if he's the leader or not. My role is just to report what's going on. Mm-hmm. But what I do care about is the Democratic Party. I am all for an opposition to the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I'm not trying to encourage people to dem enter. I'm not encouraging people to dem exit. My role is to cover it. People could do what they want. But at the end of the day, what I am for is the quickest way to seizing power for progressives, whatever that way is. And if it has to be several options, so be it. But what I want to get at is, Nick Brana has presented an image. We were going to run candidates in 2022. That ain't happening. We were going to run candidates in 2024. Doesn't look good. No. As far as I know, they haven't run even local candidates. No. So to me, whether it's going to be MPP just with different leadership or whatever, when I say to me, for you, people I've spoken with that have left still want a third party. So this isn't about like, oh, they're fed up, so now I'm going to go back and try to make it work in the Democratic Party. Most of the people I spoke to that have left, either been removed or quit or whatever, still want a third party. So what are the lessons here if MPP is going to work? Because I'm not calling for it not to work. But what are the lessons here for if MPP or any legitimate third party, and to be fair, the Green Party does exist too, to actually get people on the ballot, have an infrastructure, run strong, sophisticated, and modern day communications messages, try to get around media blackouts. How do you do that if essentially what you have now is this top-down, whatever you call it, the movement for Nick's party? What are the lessons here if MPP is going to succeed going forward, or any third party?
Well, if I can, let me tell you why I've stuck it out this long. As the state coordinator in New Jersey, I had access to the over 3,000 people email list that people have signed up with national MPP, and then they divvy it up between the states. People on the outside don't know what's going on the inside. So to me, hanging in there and catching those volunteers and not necessarily bashing MPP, but showing them that we can do this right. And actually, you don't have to use MPP, but MPP on the outside, I think, still looks good to people looking for another choice.
Right.
But after this weekend, I've had it, and then after the report today that Regina, shared, because I had no clue about that. I don't want to be associated with them, but there is the Green Party. There's other independent parties, but the people who were working in MPP, most of them, and who have had it, but who are still, there are the two parties. There's Washington and Texas, which are People's Party. We are working in the United People's Assembly. After this weekend and today's report, we have decided to quickly move forward to opening up our website. We've been planning this stuff. We wanted to do it right. So, but people are going to be looking for where to go, and there is a place, but we don't have that whole, because we were doing things. I don't know what MPP was doing nationally, but we are writing those mandates. We are writing what our guidelines are. We are writing what each working group is supposed to be doing, and everybody, and our bylaws, and we wanted to have it in place before we brought people in, and like MPP, where, come join us, but we don't have anything for you to do right now. We wanted to have that in place first. So, and it's really just kind of just kept getting bigger, and we decided, we have to do something with this. So there are places, and I believe that after this week, people still in MPP, where I was talking to a woman today who's still in MPP, and she's like, oh, this made me sick. I have to leave. I just have to leave. I'm like, come join us. She's like, well, I can't do anything right now. It's just too much for me, but sharing the invite links, we are working in the Gilded server. I'm not a tech person, but and it's so different. There's none of that, it's really such high, when the first group of petitioners were purged last year, and that's what happened. They just swept out 200 people last January and February, said, if you got caught up in this by mistake, we'll reach out to you. But then they never did. Like Renee Johnston, there was no reason to purge Renee Johnston last year. And they never reached out to her. And that's why she's been so vocal. She did nothing. And she just got caught up in there. Let's click them all out. and nobody ever reached out to her to come back. And I've been in meetings with Renee before that, because she was New York and I'm New Jersey, and we had the same regional coordinator, and we were both starting out new, and how do we do this, kind of thing. And it was just awful, this whole thing. Well, you're gone, and people would post in there like, oh, if you don't like it here, there's the door. I'm like, really? That's how you grow a party, and I just can't apologize to MPP National anymore. I just can't. It's
and
so there are places. Yeah.
2 questions lastly. Again, to be clear, I'm a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Brana has all the time in the world to respond. If he wants to deny these allegations, if he wants to confirm anything and apologize, whatever. I reached out to him before the story went out, about an hour or so before. Specific questions. I didn't get a response. He's had all day to respond. The offer is still there. I'll even interview you. But I wanted to ask you, do you think he should resign?
Absolutely. Well, that's the other thing. So now we're all meeting in the United People's Assembly. There are people who are so angry that they want nothing to do with the People's Party's name. My feeling before this weekend was that people on the outside don't know what's going on the inside, and so there's still some advantage to having that name. Today, I don't care either way, and also, like for the states like Washington and Texas that have already filed as a People's Party, you can just file another document and change your name. So there's no decision on what if we file to be a party. Right now, we're an organization that is going to help build independent parties in their states. And possibly if we have enough states with that want to do one together on a national level, we'll figure that out from there. But I just found out that you learn something new every weekend. You don't have to have the same name to be affiliated with a national party. Who knew? Well, a lot of people did. I didn't, but you don't have to. So there are people dedicated to doing this, what was promised in MPP, and we're still going to do. We're going to do it. I'm not going to say we're going to try. We're going to do it, and I hope someday you can interview some of the organizers for that, because they know much more about all this stuff than I do. Yeah.
Last question, very serious question. Are you going to sleep well? Are you going to sleep okay tonight? Because I know it's traumatic to be deactivated from Colin. If we could put that back up. I know it's very traumatic at your age.
I love that. Isn't that a great picture of me
to be deactivated?
No, I felt so good after I did that, because it's been weighing on me to be in there, knowing what a shit show it is, and it's been weighing on me to still be in there. But the last few weeks I've just been screenshotting things and distributing, and I was like, just take the sharer's name off there so they don't deactivate me. But now I went and did it myself, and I feel much better. I don't have that weight of that. Those people are awful that are just like, who think Nick can do no wrong. I mean, yes, he had a great idea, and I've actually heard over the past year that it wasn't even his idea. I don't know. This is what I've heard. But just because you have a great idea doesn't mean you know how to implement it, and doesn't mean you have the best contacts for making it happen, and doesn't mean that everything that you decide is, like, a lot of people have a lot of great ideas, but they need other people to help them get it out there, or get it made, or get it whatever. And he's not open to anything that isn't his own idea. So.
Well, it's interesting you said that. I'll just read this from yesterday. Colin, I don't know if you still have it. If you don't, that's okay. But one of Paula Jean's tweets yesterday was, they don't have the infrastructure and knowledge to run any effective campaign. The people that were going to help them are getting run off. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what Paula Jean said, that they on their own don't have the knowledge or experience to run any effective campaigns. The people that were going to help them are getting run off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can tell you also, Paula Jean did share this in open Slack in National when there was some dissent going on last week about the NOC process and the National Organizing Committee review of the charter process, that and people were being racist. One of the diehard MPP fans are Laura, her name is, from Maine. said a terrible racist thing, and there were people going back and forth, and this woman Laura will never apologize for anything. And but Paula Jean wrote, at Nick, I'm ignoring you because you promised me before I joined that this didn't happen here. So I was like, yes, Paula Jean, yes. You know? Yeah, she's been unhappy for a while. She had no clue what she was stepping into. She, you know, my own opinion is that she was lied to. Nick told his version of what we were all doing, and she agreed to come on board, and it wasn't what she was promised. And
to finish it out, I'll just highlight this comment. Regina Clark, who was quoted in the story, she was one of the 5 board members purged over the weekend. She says it's been toxic and abusive for the past few weeks. So that is a board member that was just outed. And to be clear, because I'm seeing some people in the chat. I mean, I reached out to Nick Brana. What more can I do? I reached out to him. He has not responded. So I'd love to give his side. I'd love to hear where, you know, if he wants to deny it, if he has information. My story very specifically confirmed that there has been an investigation into sexual harassment. I'm not speaking to whether he did this or did not do this. I could just tell you he definitely was being investigated for it, and the people who were investigating it found the accusations credible. Thank you so much, Kate. I really appreciate you taking the time. I will never deactivate you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the time.
All right. Take care. Tina.
Interesting.
You the floor is yours. Your response.
Well, I just think it's very interesting that we have a situation where all of the things that we accuse the Democratic Party of doing are happening here, but at some point, a bunch of folks are saying we shouldn't criticize them for doing these same things. I'm saying that's not true. At some point, truth is truth, whether it's displeasing or not is a different, topic. But nobody should be free of criticism. That doesn't mean we don't want a robust third-party system. Hell, I'd like to see 6 or 7 parties. I don't think 3 would be enough. I think if we really want a robust democracy, there should be multiple parties going, competing with each other for votes. So I don't think that's the topic here. And I also find it really disturbing that we have credible claims of sexual harassment, and his way of addressing that is to eliminate anybody that would want him to sort of have to deal with that head on. I don't think that's a good sign. That's a very toxic thing to be seeing happen. That in and of itself is problematic.
Well, to be honest, that's all we could say because he's not responding. So that's what it looks like for sure. That's what the people I spoke with said happened. If he has alternative information that there was a legitimate reason to remove half the board over 2 days, I find that hard to believe.
There's no legitimate reason for removing half the board for any reason. I can't even imagine what that would look like. I mean, that's just insane. Also, I want to talk about what these racist comments were. That's also kind of disturbing.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if that was, a normal thing that people would see in these chats, because if that's the case, that's something that should have been handled as well that was not being handled.
Well, I can tell you, and this is from multiple sources, that when there was suggestions internally to have some type of diversity agenda, or I don't know if it was a diversity committee, but actually have diversity proposals.
Yeah.
Nick often used the term woke. We don't want to wear anti-wokeness and things like that. That I know from speaking with many people, that Nick, in response to calls for stronger positions on diversity and things like that, he would often reply, "We are not here to be woke," and blah, 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 blah.
Okay, so you know what this is reminding me of, Jordan? You know what this is reminding of? Is the West Virginia Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And what we reported on there, right? Here is another example of, God, it's just so frustrating. Dealing with racist remarks, dealing with racism, systemic racism, that's not being woke. That's just doing the right thing. We should not let racism, no matter what form that takes, fester in any sort of an organization. Why does that have to be a woke position?
Right. But also, I want to be clear. And by the way, keep those super chats coming. I'm going to read them. I'm going to read them at the end. I want to be clear. And, you know, Kate, obviously what she wants to do is fine. I'm not calling for people to abandon the movement for a People's Party. This story is not about, you know, put the yellow tape around and shut down movement for a People's Party. I don't care. You know,
I mean, in the same way, we're not asking to shut down the Democratic Party either. What we're here doing is exposing some things that need to be discussed, right?
Also, the bottom line is I've gotten shit for not trying to encourage my viewers to push more to take over the Democratic Party, and I've gotten a lot of shit for not jumping on the Dem exit. And I've said, listen, I'm not like a radio shock jock. I'm a reporter. So I can't actually go cover campaigns and stuff like that and have any credibility if I'm like wearing my Dem enter or Dem exit or burn the whole fucking thing down. I have opinions. I share them. Just like I don't tell people how to vote. I say, hey, this is what I did and here's why. You do whatever you want. So this story is not about burning down MPP. Hey, maybe MPP still can succeed. I don't know. But what I do know is I'm kind of like call it how I see it. Put aside the sexual harassment stuff for a second. This organization's been around now for, I believe, 3 or 4 years. Okay,
longer.
What we're hearing is a goddamn mess. What we're hearing is a hostile top-down system, not a democratic system. What we're hearing, not just from Kate, but many others, and it's not even just people who reached out to me. Just look on Twitter. People coming out of the woodwork saying this is this organ. And I don't want to speak for the whole organization because this doesn't mean state parties are doing this, but from the top of the national leadership, you have a system where severe micromanagement, control, almost like a dictatorship. And I have been told, and I need to look into this more, even obstructing state parties who are trying to file.
That's what Kate's saying.
Right. Obstructing state parties who are trying to file as a 527. So, you know, it just.
Which doesn't make sense. I still don't understand this, Jordan. How is it that. So, like, we can look at the DNC versus the state parties, right? Here, there's an obvious reason that there's a tension there, right? The DNC has a lot of lobbyists in it. You know, they want to protect their donor class, et cetera. We can look at those things and it's pretty crystal clear why they would fight with progressives that are at the state committee level, right? But in this case, I don't see that. I can't understand why this would be the case. Like, it just doesn't compute in my brain. Like you would think that the national would be out there trying to support the state parties as they file for to become a party in each state as they're going through these things. I just don't understand what the end game is. It's very bizarre to me.
Well, here's the bottom line. Okay. To be clear, I've already said, I'm not calling for the disbanding of the MPP. I'm not calling even for Nick to resign. Not my role. I did my job. I reported what's going on. I have sources who have told me that the woman who has made these accusations against him, she is going to be coming forward herself. I don't have a timeline on that. So that's what I was told by several sources. And I happen to know some of the specifics, and it's serious accusations. I also, as somebody who once 5 years ago was falsely accused, I do believe a man, a woman, anybody has a right to defend themselves. I do believe people shouldn't just jump to conclusions. They should actually look into claims. 5 years ago, when it happened to me, you were guilty by tweet. You were just guilty by tweet if you were a man. And a lot of them were fucking guilty. And some of them were not. And I appreciate people who actually looked into my specific situation, realized it was not true. But why I bring that up is there's a lot of this is not about whether we want to go back to trying to take over the Democratic Party or stick with third party or say, fuck it, fuck electoral politics, just direct action, or all to hell, nihilism, none of it's going to work. I'm going to go watch, 90 Day Fiance. This is not about that. What this is about, you cannot credibly, and I'm talking about YouTube hosts,
right,
or Nick Brana or others. You cannot credibly be leading people to believe that the fastest way to changing things structurally in this country is a third party if you're running the third party this way. Now, that doesn't mean let's abandon ship and start over again trying to take over the Democratic Party. What that does mean is what I have been told and the description I have and the dysfunction and what Kate was describing and things that are described in my story, this is the fastest way to beat the two-party duopoly? No. Now, that doesn't mean a third party cannot work, but this MPP under Brana's leadership right now, I have a very hard time believing they are going to actually have candidates to run in the next couple years. I have let me rephrase. I have a hard time believing if nothing changes at the top and the culture does not change. I have a very hard time believing when I am fed by Nick Brana, we're going to be running candidates in 2022, 2024. Forced to vote, these things. I was for forced to vote. I'm still for it. But we need to do everything outside the Democratic Party. Okay, that's fine if you want to continue telling people not to support the Democratic Party, but you have to show some results. And even if it's not getting a ballot, even if you don't immediately succeed getting candidates on the ballot, because there is a lot of obstacles and Democratic Party rigging to get to stop third party candidates from getting on, this fucking chaos and mess of people being purged from Slacks and people being purged if they're asking too many questions, this and that. That's not a serious organization. Your thoughts?
No, it's not. No, I agree with you. It's not a serious organization. It's very dysfunctional is what it is. So there's no way they're going to be able to take on the Democratic Party if this is the level of dysfunction. And also lack of accountability, lack of transparency, lack of buy-in from your members. I think it's really important to have buy-in from the members. And if you're cutting them off for just asking questions, it's not a good look.
Hey, I would absolutely love to hear from Nick Brana. I haven't heard from Nick Brana, but I have heard from a lot of other people. And I stand 100% behind my story. I have documents that indicate he was being investigated starting in December. Again, to be fair to both him and the accuser, I'm not getting into specific allegations because I don't feel...
let her tell her story.
Right.
If she wants to.
Right. But I will say, Tina, and again, the elephant in the room, I'm not trying to dig up old dirt. The elephant in the room, 5 years ago, a pretty heinous accusation was made against me. And I immediately came out and said, this is not true. I thoroughly explained what happened. And actually, I was later told, you fucked up. You shouldn't have preemptively come out. I said to myself at that time, I'm going to preemptively... I respect
you for doing that, actually.
I preemptively came out. I didn't name the person or anything like that because it wasn't true. I knew there was actually a coordinated campaign to take me down by several people.
So, Jordan, and I should say this, I've never really discussed this publicly, but this was before you and I knew each other. And I actually read all of those things. There was a DM room that was full of a group of folks that were plotting to take you down. That was what they were saying. They were fine with making up lies to do so. And I'm talking about this now because people should know about this. This was before I knew Jordan. I did not know Jordan at all at the time. And so I made a determination at that time about you that, wow, this is completely messed up. This is not true. These are very vindictive people that, for whatever reasons, are doing this. And I remember at that time being really angry about it because as a woman, most victims are honest. They're telling you the truth. Like 95% of women that said I was sexually assaulted or harassed, this is true. But it only takes that 3% or so that are doing things like this to discredit an entire movement. And that angers me more than anything else.
Well, trust me, I've probably lost a few years out of my life dealing with that. I don't want to relitigate the whole thing, but I will tell you, there's a whole lot of people that do not know to this day what actually happened with me. I have chosen not to go. I have chosen.
You signed a non-disclosure. I mean, I honestly, I think if those had been published publicly, the things that I read, it would have been a whole different ballgame. But your hands were tied. So.
I chose not to go into details because I wanted to move forward and build Status Coup. But what I will say is generally, not just about harassment, but about other things too. If people are innocent of things, they generally want to come out and say that.
Yeah.
So I don't, I don't know if Nick Brana did.
That's true too.
I can't speak to whether Nick did certain things or didn't do things. The woman will have to tell her story. But what I do know is, putting aside the sexual harassment allegations against Nick, you don't replace and remove half 50% of the board of your political organization over 2 days because suddenly the smoke alarm went off that they missed too many meetings or that. No, it was clearly they were removed because they were pushing for a conclusion to this investigation and for recommendations to be made. It's clearly what's going on. I could say that based on the facts. And yeah, I hope Nick comes out, and whether he responds to me or issues a separate statement, he absolutely 100% has a right to defend himself. He has a right to give his version of things. I don't think people should immediately, judge whether he did things or didn't do things, because the formal accusations aren't out there. But for me, I felt as a journalist, if I know that he's under investigation for this, I should report it. And that's what I've done. And Tina, before we wrap this up, and I will read super chats, I genuinely think people need to realize, and again, to be clear, this is not me suggesting a third part, not going the third party route. This is a really hard thing to do. It is a very hard thing to build a third party. You need serious leadership. You need people with experience building infrastructures. Right. You need people with experience running campaigns. You need people with experience in legal stuff. Yeah. You need people with experience in marketing and communications and digital media and getting attention. You need people with experience in grassroots organizing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough hill climb. Green Party, how many years have they been that fight? It's a very difficult thing to do. Not only do you have the Democratic Party against you doing this, you have the Republican Party against you doing this. Every power that be is against you doing this, right? Because they want to hold on to power and control. It's going to be a difficult fight. And, I said this a few minutes ago, I'll say it again. I think we need more than 3 parties. I think if we really want to have a robust democracy where voters are getting a fair say, where the plutocracy isn't controlling everything, it's better to have more voices coming at each other and competing for your vote, right? Absolutely. That's how you get more control back into the hands of the people. But it's a tough thing to do.
And I'll say, just to wrap it up, to state parties, because several people from state parties have reached out to me that seem to genuinely still want to do this. My purpose is not to deter you from sticking with MPP. I'm not telling people to leave MPP. I'm not calling for Nick to, none of that. What I am saying is there needs to be explanations here. Yeah. There needs to be some explanations here. Of what's going on. It's not at all. Sorry, they're all bad faith. They're all infiltrators. They're all Democratic Party operatives. Yes. Yeah, no, that bullshit doesn't work anymore. And some YouTube hosts might try to sell that for Nick, but that doesn't fly.
It doesn't fly. And it also, Jordan, it just feels to me like they're saying kid gloves, Teflon coat, MPP, or whoever else that's running against, competing against the Democratic Party. I don't think that's fair. I don't think any organization should be Teflon coated from criticism. I think that's a dangerous place. But
this is exactly what we were talking about. And we got a lot of shit when we dared to criticize Joe Rogan, because people were, and to be clear, we did not call for him. We didn't call for him to be deplatformed. We don't want him to be deplatformed. But people were saying, oh, but look at CNN and MSNBC. And I was saying, and you were saying, so should we just ignore if Joe Rogan does something bad because CNN and the corporate media are awful?
I know this doesn't make sense, right? Like Joe Rogan doesn't get a free pass to say the N-word into oblivion. Sorry, doesn't work that way.
Right. So it's like, criticize the Democratic Party, fight against the Democratic Party, Republican Party too, but you don't just ignore if fucked up things are going on
No.
As far as third parties. And by the way,
principles need to be applied unilaterally and equally if they're going to remain principles. The minute you decide that something should not be applied unilaterally or universally like that, you're in trouble. It's no longer a principle.
Right.
It's an okay if they do it, but it's bad if I do it, or vice versa, sort of a situation, which doesn't work.
Absolutely.
So
to me, hey, dem enter, dem exit, do whatever you want, blow it out your ass. Doesn't matter to me. I'm going to continue covering campaigns. I'm going to try to cover movements. We've been covering union busting and union organizing and strikes. We're going to continue to cover it all. But hey, I hope he comes out with some type of explanation. We'll just have to watch as this unfolds, as far as the woman making the accusations and if she tells her story and all those things. Yeah. Let me read some super chats. Tina, we cannot go without talking about potentially World War III. So
Ukraine.
But let me read some super chats quick. Double K, $49.99. Holy cow. Ooh. Thank you. Thank you, Double K.
Yes, thank you.
Alex Fontini, $100. We need to thank you, Alex. That's amazing. We need to build.
That is amazing.
We need to build with the right. That is the only way to build a legit third party. It has to be across lines. I understand that culture is important, but class unites all. People need more money in their pockets. We left need to stop being so damn arrogant. I'm not against building with people who disagree. I personally draw the line with
Nazis
and white supremacists. But
right.
Yes, I'm not against talking to people who want tax cuts for wealthy people and this and that, if we share, other things. Alex, $5. I don't know who I'm voting for this presidential election. Don't say Dem. They haven't done anything. I didn't say Dem. You vote for whoever you want. Alex, $5.
I want to say something about it. I think it's interesting that we sort of equate candidates with party versus just the candidate on its own merit. I am a big believer of judging candidates for who they are, what they stand for, what they say they're going to do, whether they're being honest or not, et cetera, et cetera. I don't care what party they're affiliated with. I think we need to get beyond that idea that everybody associated with the party is good or bad entirely. I think it's more complex than that.
Right. Absolutely. And this goes to the Nina Turner thing because, certain people are saying, oh, she's running as a Democrat. No, it's fucking stupid. Is she worth supporting? Is she worth voting for? Don't just assume because the squad is letting you down that Nina Turner is going to get elected and let you down too. That's called projection. You got to vote based on individuals.
You could vote for a Green Party candidate and they might let you down. Like I've voted for all kinds of different folks, but I generally decide who I'm going to vote for based on what they're saying and doing. And I just don't, that's all I care about.
Absolutely. Alex, $5. People's Party is a great name, removes the left-right connotation.
I agree with that.
Misty, $4.99. Thank you, Misty. Alex, $5. One love for the people at the coup. Thank you. Alex, another $2. Freedom Party would definitely get votes. Sounds a little too Tea Party-ish to me. Kyle Wolf, $5. The Greens are not a Marxist party. They proved that when they dumped Nader. Interesting. Tina,
that's an interesting point. Sorry.
Tina, before we move on to potentially World War III, promo tomorrow, Wednesday. We're going to do a live stream at 5 o'clock, normal time. 5:45. So about 40 minutes into the live stream. We are premiering on Call-In podcasting app. So Status Coup is premiering tomorrow night at 5:45 on Call-In. That's Callin. I'll be joined by Brianna Joy Gray of Bad Faith. So we will Call-In is all the cool kids are doing it apparently. Matt Taibbi's on there, Aaron Mate, Brianna Joy Gray, a lot of other people. It's an audio, it's a live podcasting app. So it's based and you could take callers. So all you got to do is download it on your iPhone, or now they have Android Call-In app. And it's free. So you don't have to pay any money. And Colin, could you come on? Because I don't want to give people the wrong information. Okay. What do they do to download the app, and how do they follow us ahead of our first call in at 5:45 Eastern tomorrow?
Yeah, you just download the app if you are on iPhone or Android. It's on both your app stores. Just search for Callin, CALLIN, all one word, and it'll be one of the first things that pops up. It's got its logo is like just a bunch of blue lines, if I remember right. But once you're on there, you just create your free profile, and you can just search in the search bar for Status Coup, and we're obviously going to be the only result. And you can click on us, and there's a little subscribe button, so you can follow us. And you can see our shows on there right now. We just have the one show, and you can actually follow that specific show as well if you want. And I believe you'll get notifications when we go live and all that. Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll be doing that at 5:45 tomorrow, 5:45 Eastern tomorrow on Callin, CALLIN. So Tina,
yes.
I haven't been following the drip by drip. Oh, I should say, by the way, support our investigative journalism, support Status Coup by becoming a member for $5 a month. That's statuscoup.com/join, statuscoup.com/join. You can become a member for as low as $5 a month. It makes a big difference. There's also other membership levels. You can become a member at $10 a month, $20 a month, or $179 annually. But that's how we grow. Obviously, we need to pay Colin, Tina, and other people too. So definitely support us, statuscoup.com/join. We also have expensive costs for travel. I hope to get back on the road pretty soon. Food, rent a car, hotels, flights, equipment, very expensive. statuscoup.com/join, and subscribe to this channel if you're new, and click the bell next to the subscribe button if you are new. So click that bell next to the subscribe button if you are new, subscribe, and then you click the bell, hover over the bell, and click all notifications so you'll get notifications when we're live. So Tina, I haven't been watching fully the drip by drip, but obviously Putin has recognized the independence of these Russian-backed separatist regions in eastern Ukraine. America and Biden and the war machine on CNN and the rest of them are saying that this is the pretext to an invasion. Biden.
It very well may be at this point. I was thinking we weren't going to get to this place, but here we are.
Right. And I'll just read the developments too, because Biden spoke again. President Biden described events now underway in Ukraine as the beginning of a Russia invasion as he unveiled new sanctions to punish Moscow on Tuesday. He laid out what he called a first tranche of U.S. sanctions against Russia for its moves, including on two large financial institutions, Russian sovereign debt, and Russian elites and their family members. He said the moves would effectively cut off Russia's government from Western finance. Biden also announced he was moving additional troops and equipment to, quote, strengthen U.S. allies in the Baltic nations on NATO's eastern flank, but made clear they would not be there to fight Russia. The president held out the possibility that the diplomacy could still defuse the crisis and said the U.S. would remain open to talking with Russia and its partners to avert all-out war. The United States and our allies and partners remain open to diplomacy if it is serious, he said. When all is said and done, we're going to judge Russia by its actions, not its words. Okay. Well, obviously, the media has been calling that an invasion was going to happen for weeks. They were saying days and days and days. Let's just put out there, obviously, also Putin sending peacekeeping troops into this section of Ukraine. Obviously, this is escalation by Putin. But I don't know. I'm getting the sense from Biden and the media that they're making it seem like they don't want an invasion, but kind of like wink, wink. War is good for the bottom line. What is your feelings? Because obviously things have escalated.
No, they've definitely escalated. So folks that didn't tune into the show on Friday, go back and watch the show on Friday. I had Robbie Martin on. Robbie is the co-host of Media Roots with Abby Martin. Robbie has a good handle on think tanks, a lot of the foreign policy things that go on. And him and I agree on a lot of the basic premises here. One thing I want to mention is I don't think either side is being entirely genuine when they talk about the situation. I think you have to realize that, going back to 2013, there were protests. The protests were sort of co-opted by neo-fascists and hard right folks there in Ukraine, including neo-Nazis. Yes, Azov Battalion, Azov movement. These are definitely neo-Nazis. They staged a coup, threw out the pro-Russia president at that time. So there's been ongoing fighting between these two groups since then. It hasn't let up. You have the Russian separatists on the east weren't always separatists, right? We have to keep in mind that they're still Ukrainians. They're Russian Ukrainians. There's a lot of native Russians that live in Ukraine. The current president is Jewish. So again, now here's another complication. I see a lot of the 100% I'm on the Russian side, not listening to anybody else. I hear those guys saying that the government's being run by neo-Nazis. I don't think that's entirely genuine either. There are fascist elements in the government, absolutely. And there are neo-Nazis in the Azov Battalion and other militia there. And many of them have brought in foreigners that have trained with them, including some that I filmed myself in Huntington Beach. But that's also true of the Russian side. I don't think a lot of people realize that. There was a great piece in the Daily UK last week where they interviewed somebody from the National Socialist Movement, and a guy who had left the movement, but he was talking about the fact in the chats, and I've seen this myself in Telegram, where you have factions of neo-Nazis and white supremacists that are gearing up to go fight in a war over there for both sides. So that is also part of the conversation. So so it's complex is my point. What I'm getting at, this is a complex situation. It's rooted in a civil war. I think we can't really talk about Ukraine as being a monolithic group that all thinks alike. Different Ukrainians have different opinions, want different outcomes. So that's already a complexity, right? And that's not getting discussed. And I do think it is disturbing that we've now moved to this place with Russia sending more troops there. But, his big complaint's been all the NATO expansion along his borders. So I think, again, Jordan, it's a complex situation. I don't know that I'm going to pick a team on this because I don't think, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of people always want people to pick teams, right? That's whose side are you on, right? I'm not on either side. I'm saying that this is a complex situation that could have very deadly outcomes for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that, I kind of have a nuanced position. Some might say too sympathetic to Russia, but Russia certainly has a right to feel a threat. They were made promises after the fall of the Soviet Union that NATO would not move further east of Germany or reunify Germany. And NATO has definitely moved significantly further than Germany, basically on Russia's doorstep. And with those countries, Poland, Romania, and many others that joined NATO, they all got a whole lot of weapons and things like that. So you can't say Russia has no right to feel a threat because obviously NATO wants Ukraine to join. But at the same time, I'm not, I don't want the people of Ukraine to be invaded and, hundreds of thousands, if not more, to die. It would also not be good for Russia if that happened. I'm no geopolitical expert either. I like to be honest about what I know and what I don't know. But what I do know is, boy, for a corporate media seeming to put out a message that they're desperately trying to avoid this, they sure seem to be kind of invested.
Yeah,
they seem to be saber rattling and almost like wishing for an early Christmas in terms of like a war.
Yeah, but that's sort of, I think, part of it too is so that the separatists, the Ukrainian separatists, I mean, they're probably welcoming the Russian troops at this point. There's a battle line there right through Ukraine on the eastern side where these guys have been fighting each other, militias, for years now. And here's the unfortunate reality is Western media has not been reporting on this. So this battle, the Civil War, has been ongoing now for many years with very little reporting going on. And so now all of a sudden we're at this point, right? And now you have U.S. media wanting to talk about the situation, but I don't think they're going into enough details of how we got to this place, right? We didn't get to Russian separatists saying, Russia, come help us overnight, right? These were Ukrainians that didn't want to separate initially. They became Russian separatists, right? During the course of events that happened.
Right. Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, we'll see what happens. I obviously,
I just don't want this to turn into another Yugoslavia. Let me say that. Like, this is worrisome to me for that reason.
But also, at the end of the day, if Putin's already sent peacekeeping troops into eastern Ukraine and recognized these areas as independent of Ukraine, I don't think he's like. It doesn't make sense to me that he would like stop there.
It wouldn't. No, Putin is an authoritarian guy. He's not a good guy. Please don't anybody think that I'm saying that anything differently about him. I don't think he's a good player in this arena either. I'm saying there's a lot of bad players in this arena, and what he did has escalated the tensions. Right. So it's problematic.
Absolutely. So that's all I got on that. I mean, we'll have to see what happens if there's further invasion, but I don't want World War III. I don't want people to die in Ukraine or Russia. And frankly, boy, if the media would care as much about the people of Yemen that we have been aiding and killing and starving over the last 5-6 years, if they would care about the people of Venezuela this much that our sanctions have killed, name your pick of other countries that we have sanctioned or killed, and human rights abuses. Biden and the media is very concerned about the human rights violations of Russia, not so much of Saudi Arabia or other U.S. allies. Right. That
Saudi Arabia gets away with literal murder. It's insane to me.
Absolutely. So that's all I got. Thank you, Tina, for joining. Everybody, reminder, tomorrow we'll be live at the normal time at 5 o'clock Eastern, and then 5:45 we'll be shifting over for our first episode on Call-In, and I'll have Brianna Joy Gray of Bad Faith as a guest. So download the app now, Call-In app, CALLIN, and then you could follow us, search for Status Coup on Call-In and follow us, and we'll be going live there at 5:45. It's a live Call-In podcast app, so you could call in literally through your phone app, and I'll take your calls. So
can I address one of the chats that chats that came in, because people are talking about? So he says, aren't the Azov battalion literal neo-Nazis? Yes, they are. And in fact, so I briefly mentioned this. There were a couple of there was a White Lives Matter rally in Huntington Beach that I went down and filmed, and 2 skinheads had Azov battalion tattoos on the back of their heads, which meant they had probably gone to Ukraine and trained. There's a group called Rise Above Movement, RAM. Robert Rundo is organizer that had started that. He had also gone to Ukraine and trained over there. There is absolutely, so I'm not trying to downplay this at all. It's very serious, actually. There is definitely a neo-Nazi white supremacist thing that goes on. You can go back and look through Vice videos where you'll see they have white pride tattooed on them, or they have swastikas and what have you. So this is definitely part of the conversation. They have now been, Azov Battalion was at one point in time a voluntary militia. They became part of the actual fighting forces of Ukraine right after the coup in 2015, I believe, around there. So, and there is a whole movement that has sprung called the Azov movement that is definitely a neo-fascist, neo-Nazi movement. There was some pushback in 2016 when they were looking at an appropriations bill. I can't remember which senator, but one of them wanted to add an amendment saying that no funding coming to the United States would go to Azov for this reason. Pentagon pushed back. It was removed from the bill before Obama signed it. So there is definitely a whole history there that's very alarming. So I'm not trying to downplay that at all. But I am saying that there is a Jewish president now who was elected. So we have to acknowledge that. I doubt that he is okay with the neo-Nazis there. So again, it's complicated. And I think the other side of that is, yes, there are also neo-Nazis that are on the Russian side. White Rex comes to mind. I'm not saying he's related to this Ukraine thing, but there is definitely that element that exists on the other side. I'm speaking fast because I'm trying to get a bunch of information in here at the end of the show. But if you do have an interest in this, again, go back and listen to the live stream from Friday where I discuss this in depth with Robbie Martin.
And to end on a lighter note, To end on a lighter note, Cardi B weighed in on the Ukraine-Russia crisis. Quote, wish these world leaders stop tripping about power.
Yeah. Thank you, Cardi B.
So Cardi B wants these world leaders to stop tripping about power. They're not only Cardi B, they're not only tripping about power, they're tripping about oil and many other things. So
military industrial complex, a whole host of things.
Thank you so much, Tina, for joining me. Thank you to the audience. Again, one last time, support us if you can, statuscoup.com/join. If you're new here, we do investigative reporting. We also do on the ground reporting. If you look at the homepage of this YouTube channel, click on our highlights from 2021. We were everywhere on a shoestring budget. No money coming from big bankers. No money coming from fossil fuckers, big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, the military industrial complex, Democratic Party sugar daddies, Republican Party sugar daddies. Our funding comes from you through small dollar memberships. If you can become a member for even $5 a month, makes a big difference. Obviously, we have members at $10 a month, $20 a month, and even higher. Thank you for supporting us. Actually, let me just give a shout out to new members because we got a couple.
All right.
Hold on. Welcome new Status Coup member Arlene. Welcome new Status Coup member Jonathan, Patricia, Gabriel, Mandy, and Eric. So that's 6 members over today and yesterday. So if we could get that growing, statuscoup.com/join. There's a lot of people that ask for money. And then what do they typically do? A lot of hot takes and nonsense. We're actually asking for money to fund something radical, journalism.
Yeah, it is radical, right? Also, I should plug my new Daily Dot piece.
Yes.
So everybody go check it out. I did something I've been working on for a while that's related to the Proud Boys on the Daily Dot. It's on my Twitter. Go check it out. That's my plug.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tina. I read that story, by the way. It is really, really good. You might think Proud Boys has a bottom. Read this. Read this.
And it's funny because I had these videos that were sent to me from one of their private chat rooms that legal decided we shouldn't publish them, but we have them. So if anybody comes at us, we do have the evidence. But it's really interesting to me to see how they've gone from, one time declaring their public affiliation, like they were so proud to be a Proud Boy, to the point now where they're denying their membership in the organization while still clinging to it at the same time.
Right. Absolutely. All right, folks, got to go pee and eat. Thanks for watching. See you at 5:00 tomorrow. And remember, 5:45 Eastern will be premiering on Callin. So download the app now. Callin and follow at Status Coup on Callin. Take care.